Kelly, we know Americans are buying a lot of guns, but finding ammunition for those guns can be tough.
On average, between 2 and 4 years to set up a new production line.
Which raised some questions about the future of ammunition sales in the state now that the new legislation is in effect.
The ammunition market is dried up. There's virtually no ammunition available.
It's going to be a long time until this thing normalizes, and you're going to have the stock that people are used to seeing from several years ago.
Lake City Ammo Plant. The Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, a Missouri-based facility overseen by the U.S. Army and responsible for manufacturing a significant portion of the U.S. military's rifle cartridges, has recently come under scrutiny. It has been revealed that ammunition produced at this facility has been used in multiple mass layings across the United States over the past decade. This has prompted 20 states, led by New York Attorney General Letitia James, to call on the White House to take action, requesting an investigation into the contracting and manufacturing practices that have allowed military-grade rounds to be sold to civilians. The controversy raises concerns about the intersection of federal funding, private contractors, and the potential risk posed by the widespread availability of such ammunition. The Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, operating with oversight from the U.S. Army, holds a crucial role in the production of rifle cartridges for the U.S. Army. With a history spanning nearly 50 years, the facility has been a primary manufacturer of ammunition used by the military. However, it has also expanded its commercial operations, becoming one of the largest producers of rounds for AR-15 style rifles, an arm popular among civilians in the U.S. This dual role, both supplying the military and the civilian market, has raised ethical concerns, particularly in the wake of the revelation that its ammunition has been involved in multiple mass layings. A disturbing revelation emerges from the fact that Lake City rounds have been utilized in at least a dozen mass layings carried out by assailants wielding AR-15 style rifles. These layings have left a tragic mark on communities across the nation, with the facility's shell casings being recovered at the scenes of some of the lethal mass layings. The AR-15, known for its high power, has become a symbol of controversy due to its frequent use in mass layings. The federal government's financial involvement adds a layer of complexity to the issue. Lake City has received over $860 million in federal funds aimed at improving its production capabilities over the last 2 decades. The financial support from taxpayers raises questions about the indirect subsidization of the production of military-grade ammunition that finds its way into civilian hands.
Kelly, we know Americans are buying a lot of guns, but finding ammunition for those guns can be tough.
Retailers tell us the ammunition to use them has become near impossible to find or too expensive to buy.
One of my distributors just ran out of everything.
Comes as the White House is walking back President Biden's claim that the U.S. is running low on ammunitions.
The connection between federal funding, military-grade ammunition production, and its subsequent availability to civilians underscores the need for a thorough investigation. New York Attorney General Letitia James and 19 other state attorney generals have taken a proactive stance, addressing their concerns in a letter to the newly established White House Office of Armed Violence Prevention. The coalition demands an investigation into the contracting and manufacturing practices that facilitated the sale of military-grade rounds to civilians. Their call for a comprehensive report on the findings of the investigation reflects a commitment to transparency and accountability. The coalition of attorneys general is not only seeking an immediate investigation, but also urging the White House to implement long-term measures. They request future production contracts to explicitly prohibit the sale of military arms and ammunition to civilians. While acknowledging the importance of military readiness, the coalition emphasizes the responsibility of the federal government to prevent arms designed for military use from contributing to civilian casualties. The letter highlights the urgent need for the federal government to play a more proactive role in preventing arms made for the military from causing harm to innocent civilians. The attorneys general argued that tax dollars should not inadvertently support crime, violence, or contribute to the ongoing epidemic of armed violence in America. This broader perspective positions the issue as not merely a question of ammunition production, but as a matter of public safety and responsible use of federal funds. The controversy surrounding the Lake City Army ammunition plant underscores the intricate web of federal funding, military-grade ammunition production, and civilian access to potentially lethal arms. As the coalition of attorneys general presses for an investigation and long-term measures, the nation awaits the response from the White House. The outcome of this inquiry may shape the future landscape of ammunition production, emphasizing the delicate balance between the military preparedness and the imperative to safeguard civilian lives from the devastating impacts of armed violence. Ammo sales under scrutiny. In a recent development, New York Attorney General Letitia James, known for her strong stance against civilian arm ownership, has joined forces with 19 other state attorney generals to urge the Biden administration to halt civilian sales of surplus Lake City 5.56x45 ammunition. This move has sparked concerns among arm owners and enthusiasts, as it has the potential to significantly impact the availability and affordability of this popular ammunition. The Lake City 5.56x45 ammo, which constitutes 30% of civilian sales for this type of ammunition, has become a focal point in the ongoing debate over arm control. The coalition, led by Attorney General James, aims to address reports of a federally funded contractor producing military-grade ammunition for civilian use, including by individuals involved in recent mass layings. The attorneys general have expressed their concerns about the civilian market being supplied with ammunition from the Lake City Army Ammunition Plant, a facility overseen by the U.S. Army. They are calling for an investigation by the White House Office of Armed Violence Prevention to determine how billions of rounds of military-grade ammunition made their way to the civilian market. This initiative comes at a time when Letitia James is already embroiled in a civil corruption trial of Wayne Lapierre, the head of the National Rifle Association or NRA. Her efforts to investigate and potentially shut down the NRA have been met with criticism and controversy. Now, by targeting surplus Lake City 5.56 ammo, James and her coalition are extending their reach to impact civilian arm owners across the nation.
And the White House later clarified the president's statement to News Nation, saying that the country's leftover ammo is
for firearms and now ammunition. It's part of the Concealed Carry Improvement Act.
It is not unusual for a gun owner to have many firearms because they serve different purposes.
Number two, the pricing structure for what is available is off the wall. The prices are phenomenal.
The argument put forth by the attorneys general revolves around ensuring that military production contracts explicitly prohibit the sale of military subsidized arms and ammunitions to civilians. However, critics argue that this move might disproportionately affect law-abiding arm owners and hinder their ability to access ammunition for legal and responsible purposes. As the debate over arm control and Second Amendment rights intensifies, the collaboration of 20 state attorneys general, led by Letitia James, adds a new dimension to the ongoing discourse. Arm rights advocates are closely monitoring the situation, expressing concerns about the potential infringements on the rights of law-abiding citizens and the broader implications for the arms industry. Ammo ban controversy. The recent announcement of a 5.56 ammo ban by 20 states has sparked significant debate and concern. The decision to ban this particular type of ammunition is based on the argument that military-grade arms and ammunition should not be readily available to civilians. The move is led by Attorney General James, who emphasized the need to keep such arms and ammunition out of homes and communities. The focal point of the ban is ammunition produced at Lake City, a major manufacturing facility operated by a private contractor and overseen by the U.S. Army. Lake City is known for being one of the largest manufacturers of military ammunition in the United States, with the capacity to produce around 1.6 billion rounds annually, a substantial portion which is intended for use in AR-15 style rifles. Despite its military-oriented production, Lake City has also been actively selling its products on the civilian market. The decision to impose a ban on 5.56 ammo stems from concerns raised by the Coalition of Attorneys General, who argued that Lake City ammunition has been used in recent mass layings and crimes. The New York Times reporting has shed light on the fact that Lake City rounds were involved in various high-profile incidents, such as the Top Supermarket mass laying in Buffalo, New York, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida, the Tree of Life synagogue attack in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the Robb Elementary School incident in Uvalde, Texas. The attorneys general counted that Lake City rounds have become the ammunition of choice for mass layings, with Buffalo mass layer explicitly praising it as the best barrier penetration ammo I can get. This acknowledgement raises serious concerns about the impact of easily accessible military-grade ammunition on public safety. Attorney General James, in expressing her support for the ban, highlighted the connection between Lake City ammunition and devastating mass layings. The Top Supermarket mass laying in Buffalo was specially mentioned, and the general sentiment is that the availability of such ammunition in private market poses a significant risk to the public. It is crucial to recognize the broader context of the ban, which aligns with a growing nationwide debate on arm control and the regulation of arms and ammunition. The use of Lake City ammunition in multiple incidents has intensified calls for stricter regulations on military-grade arms and associated accessories. The ban is not without its critics, who argue that restricting access to specific types of ammunition infringes upon Second Amendment rights. Advocates for armed rights emphasize the importance of individual freedoms and question the efficacy of such bans in preventing criminal activities. This development also raises questions about the responsibility of manufacturers like Lake City and the oversight by government entities. The fact that ammunition produced for military use is finding its way into civilian markets and being implicated in criminal activities underscores potential regulatory gaps. In supposition, the 5.56 ammo ban produced by 20 states reflects the ongoing struggle to balance public safety concerns with individual rights. The debate around arm control, access to military-grade arms, and the role of manufacturers in supplying both military and civilian markets is likely to continue as policymakers grapple with finding effective solutions to mitigate the risk of mass layings and crimes involving such ammunition. Military-grade ammo. The recent announcement of a ban on 5.56 ammo in 20 states has stirred a heated debate about the production, distribution, and sale of military-grade ammunition to civilians. Led by New York Attorney General Letitia James, a coalition of attorneys general from 20 states is calling for a comprehensive investigation into the contracting and manufacturing practices that have allowed Lake City, a major ammunition manufacturing facility, to produce and sell such rounds to the public. Lake City, a private contractor facility overseen by the U.S. Army, is one of the largest manufacturers of military ammunition in the country, capable of producing a staggering 1.6 billion rounds annually. The facility's commercial operations extend into the civilian market, with its products, including the controversial 5.56 ammo, becoming widely available. The recent investment of over $860 million in federal funds to enhance production capabilities at Lake City has added fuel to the fire, prompting calls for an investigation into taxpayer-funded subsidies for the production of potentially dangerous ammunition sold to civilians. One of the central issues raised by the attorneys general is the federal government's substantial investment in Lake City, questioning the ethics of taxpayer funds subsidizing the production of ammunition linked to tragic events. The coalition is calling for an investigation by the White House of armed violence prevention into the contracting and manufacturing practices that led to military-grade rounds being sold to civilians.
The U.S. is once again seeing skyrocketing gun sales.
Yes, he has seen ammo shortages before, but never, he says, like this.
On average, between 2 and 4 years to set up a new production line.
It's going to be a long time until this thing normalizes, and you're going to have the stock that people are used to seeing from several years ago.
Attorney General James has been a consistent advocate for an armed violence prevention, having taken multiple actions to address the challenges associated with arms. Her leadership in supporting a new ATF rule to limit unlicensed arms sales, successfully defending against Second Amendment challenges in New York State Court of Appeals, and suing an arm accessory manufacturer linked to the Buffalo mass slayer, highlights her commitment to curbing armed violence. While the Attorney General's efforts aim to scrutinize the contracting and manufacturing practices at Lake City, the implications of this controversy extend to larger questions about federal accountability, transparency, and the ethical considerations surrounding the production of military-grade ammunition for civilian consumption. As the investigation unfolds, it remains to be seen how much influence the Biden administration will exert on the private vendor operating the Lake City Army ammunition plant, and whether substantial changes will be implemented to address the concerns raised by the coalition of attorneys general. Biden's efforts to combat armed violence. In response to the alarming surge in armed violence and mass layings across the United States, President Biden initiated a groundbreaking effort last year by establishing the first ever federal agency dedicated to combating armed violence. This agency, operating under Vice President Kamala Harris, is tasked with addressing the pervasive issue of high-powered arms and armed violence that has plagued the nation. A focal point of concern in this endeavor is the Lake City Army ammunition plant in Missouri, which has become entangled in a controversy involving mass layings and civilian access to military-grade ammunition. The urgency of addressing armed violence is underscored by the staggering statistics from 2023, during which the Armed Violence Archive recorded at least 656 mass layings, resulting in 4 or more people being slayed or injured. Tragically, 42,987 lives were lost to armed violence in the same year. These alarming figures highlight the pressing need for comprehensive measures to curb the proliferation of high-powered arms and enhance public safety. A disconcerting revelation has emerged linking the Lake City rounds to numerous mass layings, emphasizing the plant's role in supplying ammunition to tragic incidents that have claimed innocent lives. The use of Lake City ammunition in high-profile cases, such as the Parkland, Florida school slaying and the Robb Elementary School mass slaying in Uvalde, Texas, has raised questions about the responsibility of the facility and the oversight it receives. A significant turning point occurred with the New York Times investigation, revealing that the Missouri-based plant, operating under a private contractor with Army oversight, has been a prolific producer of ammunition for both the commercial market and the U.S. military. Production for retail sales, law enforcement agencies, and foreign governments exceeded that for military use by 2021. The federal government has invested a substantial $860 million in the facility over the past 2 decades, raising concerns about the taxpayer dollars indirectly supporting the production of military-grade ammunition. The controversy surrounding Lake City's ammunition has prompted action from attorneys general across 20 states. They have addressed the White House, urging an investigation into the contracting and manufacturing practices that have facilitated the sale of military-grade rounds to civilians. The attorneys general argue that military-style arms and their associated ammunition should be restricted to military use, emphasizing that the sale of such ammunition to private parties should not be subsidized by taxpayers. President Biden's commitment to combating armed violence is evident in the establishment of the federal agency dedicated to this cause. The administration's efforts aim to address not only the immediate challenges posed by mass layings, but also the underlying issues contributing to the epidemic of armed violence.
that the government is buying and hoarding ammunition to keep it out of the hands of law-abiding citizens.
Which raised some questions about the future of ammunition sales in the state now that the new legislation is in effect.
Is government overreach, and business was slower than normal today.
The ammunition market is dried up. There's virtually no ammunition available.
The call for investigations and restrictions on military the broader efforts to combat armed violence in the United States. As President Biden's administration strives to address the multifaceted challenges posed by the proliferation of high-powered arms and ammunition, the role of facilities like Lake City raises ethical and practical questions. The call for investigations and restrictions underscores the need for a comprehensive approach that balances military preparedness with public safety, ensuring that taxpayer funds contribute to solutions rather than perpetuating the devastating impact of armed violence. Comprehensive analysis. The Lake City Ammunition Plant, a long-standing facility with a history of producing military-grade ammunition for the U.S. military, has found itself embroiled in controversy. The trigger for this latest development was Congress's inquiry into the military use of the plant, followed by 20 state attorneys general demanding an investigation into its practices. This scrutiny, led by New York Attorney General Letitia James, raises concerns about the production of 5.56 mm ammunition for civilian use, culminating in a call to investigate the contracting and manufacturing processes. This article delves into the details of this contentious issue, examining the allegations, implications, and the broader context of the situation. The controversy surrounding Lake City Ammo gained momentum when Congress initiated an inquiry into the military's involvement with the plant, suggesting that it might be subsidizing crime through its operations. Following this, 20 state attorneys general, including New York, Arizona, Maine, Michigan, and others, joined forces, demanding an investigation into the plant's practices. The focus of their inquiry is the alleged sale of military-grade rounds to civilians, leading to their use in mass layings. The primary allegation against Lake City is that ammunition manufactured for military use, particularly the 5.56 mm rounds, has made its way into civilian markets, contributing to mass layings. The attorneys general argued that these military-style arms and associated ammunition should be limited to military use. Moreover, they expressed concern about taxpayer dollars indirectly subsidizing the production of ammunition that eventually ends up being used in crimes. The overarching goal, as articulated by the attorneys general, is to prevent military-grade ammunition from reaching civilian hands. In a letter addressed to the White House Office of Armed Violence Prevention, the attorneys general called for an investigation into the contracting and manufacturing processes at Lake City. Their objective is to uncover how military-grade rounds have been sold to civilians and to ensure that such ammunition stays out of civilian hands. The attorneys general are seeking a comprehensive report with recommendations to address the issue, emphasizing the importance of preventing military arms and ammunition from reaching civilians in the long term. Lake City Ammo has a historical significance, having manufactured nearly every rifle cartridge used by the U.S. military in the last 50 years. The facility, overseen by the U.S. Army, has received substantial federal investments, totaling over $860 million in the past decades. The controversy arises from the dual role of the plant, producing ammunition for both military and civilian markets. While acknowledging the importance of military readiness, the attorneys general contend that steps must be taken to ensure that military-grade ammunition doesn't contribute to civilian armed violence. The attorneys general's argument against the sale of military-grade ammunition to civilians is met with criticism. Critics point out the irony of government officials expressing concern about civilians having a monopoly of violence, considering the government's substantial role in the creation and distribution of arms. The Attorney General's call for action is viewed by some as an attempt at civilian disarmament under the guise of addressing armed violence. Despite the demands for an investigation and restrictions on Lake City's operations, the White House has dismissed rumors of shutting down the facility. The plant's crucial role in quickly producing military ammo when needed and its private contractor status make it an integral part of the defense infrastructure. The controversy surrounding the Lake City ammunition plant reflects the ongoing debate over the intersection of military and civilian arms production. The inquiry initiated by Congress and the subsequent demands from state attorneys general underscored the complex challenges associated with the dual-purpose nature of such facilities. As the situation unfolds, it raises questions about the balance between military readiness and civilian safety, with the potential for broader implications on the accessibility of certain types of ammunition for civilian use. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.